pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes of July 15, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 15, 2019 as submitted.
Second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the police report. Mike?
Good evening. During the month of July, the police department responded to 198 calls for service, investigated 12 crimes, had 2 arrests, conducted 56 traffic stops, and investigated 10 accidents. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions?
Yeah, where are the bulk of the accidents?
It varies.
So it's not one.
No, it's not one central location. 401 does have some, but it's spread out. Okay?
Thank you.
Mike? Yes, sir. Right.
This is an old one, because I went and sent you a thing about game cams with telephone reporting back in again,
Great.
back when it was snowing. And you said, wait till it stops snowing. And I said, another note, never got a reply back. One thing that I did find out is that I know that the service was using Verizon, and right now the service out at Bryn Coed for Verizon just about doesn't exist. But did you ever look at those, were they a good deal for the price and their monthly fees compared to the others that you had looked at?
I do. I think they are a very valuable tool. I just had to determine if it's worth the justification for the monthly payments for the service.
Well,
I like the idea of having it sent to the phone right away or to a computer, an email account. But the problem is, I just wasn't sure that we were ready to lock into something like that.
Well, that was the thing I was asking, whether their monthly fee that they were talking about, which I think was like $15 a month, is that better than some of the others? I think some of the others I've heard of are like $60 a month, which is, you know.
Oh, they can
that's
go over
over.
60.
But is $15 a month at a good?
That's a great price, yes.
Okay.
And the county's working with them, so it may even get a little bit better, but I don't want to talk about it till the county.
I understand that pay-per purchases are a good thing,
Right.
and it's a good tool to go. You can have people out there watching with no one visible there.
Right?
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Next is the manager's report. Erica?
Okay, thank you very much. We have a number of public hearings coming up, 2 specifically on September 16th next month. The first of which will be the Phoenixville Regional Comprehensive Plan, the public hearing for the proposed adoption of that plan. And secondly, an agricultural security area application of Christine and Christopher McGowan for 2127 Flowing Springs Road. The Park and Rec Commission Picnic in the Park event that was scheduled for last week was canceled due to imminent rain and thunderstorms. We have that now rescheduled for this Thursday, August 22nd at 6:30 p.m. We'll have the Fred Miller Band who will provide the free live music for that evening, and so far it's looking so good. The Parks and Rec Commission also is still looking for volunteers for our trail days. Very thankful for Bill Holderness in the back here for all his leadership on that. Thank you. See if you're interested. Please contact us if you're interested in the upcoming workday, which is Saturday, August 24th. 8 a.m. everyone gets together, and by 9 a.m. the work begins. Our safety committee received our 5% credit on our premium. We had some training through our workers' compensation carrier, AmTrust, this past month. So we're pleased that we'll have that for our insurance renewals coming up here in the next few weeks. The Citadel Country Spirit USA concert is right around the corner here. It will have dates Friday, August 23rd through Sunday, August 25th. It's a big event that comes to town. Everything is getting ready right now. The Township Police Department Facebook page has a lot of good information, so please check back there if you're not unsure of parking requirements, different alerts, that sort of thing. There's no on-street parking permitted on township and state roads for the duration of the event south of Horseshoe Trail in the township. As well as Nantmeal Road will be closed for Route 100 to Lowick's Corner Firehouse, and the upper parking lot will be closed for that entire portion of the event. Residents that are located in that area will be rerouted and detoured to from Nantmeal Road to Horseshoe Trail. So we appreciate everybody's cooperation with that. As far as building and zoning and department reports, we had 30 permit applications processed in July. The Weatherstone Town Center development is certainly well underway with Wawa under construction and the mixed-use buildings that are under construction as well. In the Finance Department, our June 2019 budget report is done. We are also well underway in developing the 2020 budget for the year. In the Public Works Department, we've conducted regular vehicle facility and road maintenance, cleared various inlets and block pipe with some recent storm events, installation of under drain on Bartlett Lane and Art School Road, inlets and pipe on French Creek Road in preparation for all the paving that we're doing. Chip seal has started today, and we'll continue. The actual paving for our roads this year will begin Monday the 26th rather than Thursday the 22nd this week due to some scheduling changes. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Next on the list is the bills list. Tonight we are approving bills, township bills of $155,185.12. Reimbursable bills, $28,157.26. Subdivision utility bills plant bills, $411.90. Reimbursable escrow release, $91,017.89 for a total of $274,772.17.
I'll make a motion to approve bills list dated August 19, 2019, with a total amount of $274,772.17 as submitted.
Second.
Any questions? Art?
There's a bill here for West Construction Supply, WL Construction Supply, 4.5-inch blade for cutting and cutting metal for $219.
Yes, Roadmaster bought that to do some of their own work.
4.5 inch for $200.
Oh, is it say 4.5 inch? Then that may just be a typo. I'll take a look at that.
Well, yeah, for $219, it's the most expensive 4.5 inch blade I've ever
Oh, no,
seen.
it's quite big. I saw it till,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
We'll just,
Thank you.
check that big typo.
Probably 14.5 inch.
Yeah, that seems right.
Brian?
Only got a few for the public side of it right now. I haven't got my questions into Eric, and she'll get them later on, and I should take care of. Under Arrow Consulting, Buttonwood Bridge replacement, we're up to $17,000. Does this mean we're getting really close on this?
Sure. That $17,000 is part of the $25,000 professional service agreement for the survey and wetlands delineation for the project. So now it's all going to go to plan where we say this is where the bridge needs to be located. And here are the rights that we need in order to have that done. So there's still some work because we're going to have to keep Buttonwood Bridge open while we're working alongside it to
So
get
we're
the
going
rights
to
to
go
do
into
so.
the bridge a little bit then?
The replacement bridge is gonna have to be placed, set, constructed, while the current bridge is being used for traffic, since that's our only access. So we do not own rights on both sides to the fullest extent necessary for the construction. So with this information, we'll be able to actually put the scope together for what we need to do as far as the location of the bridge.
So this is kind of like the accelerated bridge construction, where you build the bridge beside it and then you move it into place rapidly.
No, I think we're gonna build the bridge and then take down the other one.
So you actually are gonna put up a new bridge and a slate
Yes.
location?
Yes, that's what we're looking to do.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Revenue's involved in looking at what we're gonna be doing now.
Oh, yes, it's very involved.
Okay. Blue Dog Printing and Design, we have, Safety Green Public Works t-shirts. Does this mean that they've got green t-shirts with W West Vincent Township on the back of them?
Certainly do.
Good, and I'm glad they're not orange, because then we would
Yeah.
confuse them with prisoners. The excavator rental for the French Creek and Pewtown roads. What made the excavator different than like what we could have done with our backhoes?
It's just more efficient. There was a lot of ground to cover in terms of the work that was being done, and that was the recommendation of our roadmaster. It seemed to work out very well.
Okay. And this is,
Excuse me, but that was instead of moving one from another part of the township.
I'm sorry?
We have a backhoe, right?
Yeah.
So this would be.
hold it. I've got the floor.
Okay, good.
You can get up
figured-
afterwards.
You figured it out, right? Explain it to me.
There's a whole bunch of items for French Creek Road. Do
Mhm.
we have an expected budget amount for that?
Yes, I have, we had decided the township road crew could do certain drainage improvements prior to the paving. We could complete that ourselves, so it's about $15,000 for the material, the rental, and the inlets and the pipe.
Okay, and then we're having somebody come in to go and do the paving?
Correct, yes.
Okay. The numbers we've got for that, does that include the labor for the public work?
Yes, it actually does.
Good. There was a discussion point in the past.
Yes,
And you're tracking those expenditures.
yes.
And that's it for me, thank you.
Okay.
It's your turn, Sarah.
I'll explain it.
Any other questions?
I just had one, so it looks like we have a subscription to the Mercury paper, a paper subscription? for the
We do.
year. Do we need that for
We do,
verifying advertising?
yes. And then
Digital's
we
no good?
pull them. No, I know, but we have the physical copy and we have to have that,
Okay.
yeah, retained, so.
Save $400 if we don't need that.
I-
There's no
Yeah,
work
it's
on
getting
that,
more
right?
expensive.
Is that about allowing digital,
Either about modifying the laws again, that's it.
is it going anywhere? No. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
We're the only one that should keep them in business.
Well,
I know.
and we have to verify it on a piece of paper, I guess.
That we receive from them.
You can blame George because he triggered this. We also, with the merchant, we went and have employment positions. What positions are we advertising for?
right now, we're seeking applications for the position of road laborer.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
The next on the list is the treasurer's report. Okay.
Thank you very much. We have here 6 months now of information regarding the budget performance and our revenues on the first page of the treasurer's report. I know I sound like a broken record, but we're watching our earned income tax. It's really, in terms of looking at the revenues received, the variable here, but we're slowly coming back. We're in constant communication with Keystone Collections to check in on that collection. Our real estate's doing fine, and transfer taxes, we're doing fine as far as actual to budget. Compared to last year, though, that is behind, but that's really as a result of a lot of active subdivisions and things moving forward. In that regard, building permits, I know in the last 2 days, I think we received about 10 permits, so things are ticking up again. On the residential side, we saw that kind of slow down a little bit in June, May and June, so we're just gonna watch that as things move forward. And certainly we have Weatherstone to consider, as well as buildings are slated for development. So we're looking total for revenue to date for June 2019 of $3,617,233. To budget, it's doing fine. As far as expenditures are concerned,
One question.
so
On the capital interest, why don't we have a budget? Oh, last year, okay, we did it separately, that's not.
Okay, sure. On expenditures, right now for the month of June, everything is to budget. We are certainly anticipating our expenditures for all the committed capital items for the road program. We'll have our chip seal done as far as public works is concerned. But everything is trending fine for the year, and also in contrast to our budget. And then on the next page, we have our updated figures for the year-to-date expenditures as a percentage of year-to-date revenue, so you can have that, and our balance of funds. Our total balance of funds is $11,448,761.69. So they're all available for review. And then the last page is really the budget to actual summary by fund, and this is really to make sure that for the month and for the year that we are in good standing. Right now, as I said, that earned income tax, really gonna have to watch that, but in terms of our expenditures, we're doing fine with that 6-month review. So we'll just watch that over the course of the year here, and capital expenditures, that's gonna be related to our paving, engineering costs associated with that, open space funds, collecting that, and we're certainly anticipating Brinkwood demo will be out to bid here shortly, and that'll be impacting that, but otherwise no activity. Liquid fuels, we have our liquid fuels expenditures reported here, and we'll have that drawdown on that in the next few months. And sewer, that just reflects the activity for reports at Chester Springs. We're trying to get that dedicated over the month, so. All right, with that, that is the treasurer's report.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Erica? Or any of us?
Yeah. Okay, the interest income in the capital fund was $13,000 per month for 8 months. And then it went to $5,900, and now it went to $4,500. It seems like there's something missing, some income here that we should have.
Right, we, in May, we actually went from Pliget Prime to Term, which will mature in January and earns more interest. So that's what it is, it's not posting in the account, it will, we'll have it at maturity for that account.
It's a CD,
So
for cash basis though.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna get a lump sum now?
Right, yes.
Okay. One of the things that come out, our engineering services, the engineering services in the capital fund, but it's 57,000 so far, or 70. There's no other expenditures, and just engineering services,
Right.
which almost normally might not be a capital expenditure, but it could be.
Yeah.
If it's gonna result in something. The other thing is, there's 77,000 of engineering services in the general fund, which grew up to 130,000. Should we have an engineer on hand, hire an engineer, it would be way less than 134,000. That's for 6 months.
Right.
So it'd be 260 for the year, 270. It just seems like a really high expense.
Now, the expense, the engineering services in the capital is because we haven't actually done the work yet.
Right,
Yeah.
it's all in advance, but yes, I
So what,
understand.
okay, so the engineering services is 57,000, what's the amount of the work that we want to do for that $57,000?
Well, the paving is going to be at least 800,000, and then Buttonwood, we're gonna have to project that out, and probably 250 to 500,000 estimate. I say that with a range, just because, we need more information to get a good picture of what that's gonna cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to get a percentage.
Oh, yeah.
That engineering is to.
Yep.
5%.
Right.
Mhm.
About 5%, okay.
Well, unless they keep going up.
Right.
Yeah, and also if you hired someone, this might be more than a man, year of service. I don't know, is it one guy?
Yeah,
Well,
it is
normally if we
possible.
could, consultants are double their salary.
Maybe that's true.
So, that's just rule of thumb.
Right.
But, and then, in the capital fund, It shows a loss of 30,000, but the reserve is down 35,000. That's, all the other funds match perfectly, the reserve changes by the amount of income or loss, except the capital fund does not, it's off by 5,000.
If we have an interfund transfer because of the nature of Pliget, we just got check writing ability for Pliget, thank goodness, so we'll be able to take care of that. Yes,
I still have to do it where you have that income and expense.
I know.
I still haven't figured out
yeah,
how that is, it's not affecting any other accounts. So it's like going from one checking account to the other checking account.
yeah, I understand
And they
that.
call that income and expense, it's really strict. I think your auditors are gonna just eliminate it at year end. I don't think it'll fly as a practice. But you might ask them.
There's no way to do that here.
Yeah, we reviewed it, but that's fine, yeah, okay.
And they had no problem with it last year.
Nope.
Brian?
This is money related. It was either last meeting or the meeting before, I asked about the impact on real estate taxes for the completion of Weatherstone, and you were still modeling it. Do you have it modeled, or you're still?
Still
working?
modeling,
Okay, thank you.
getting closer, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Eric.
Sure.
Next is correspondence from Chester County Watersheds Plan Update.
Sure. Chester County through Landscapes 3 also has a supplement. It's the watersheds plan, and through that process, they are going to have an update. It's Act 167 for Chester County, and their requirement is to reach out to municipalities, go through another planning forum, and they would like 2 representatives to sit on this committee to update that plan. Vic Laubach is willing as representative of the township, and she's also with Green Valleys, of course, as a director, and I can also represent if you like. So that is for review, and if you're okay with that, we can move forward with the next meeting, or the first meeting rather, is in September, late September, the 20th.
Okay.
Okay?
Next on the agenda is State Representative Otten, Town Hall at Henrietta Henkin Library, Thursday, September 19th.
Mike?
Yes. Danielle.
What time is it on Thursday?
Looks like 6 to 7:30.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, I think they want a representative from the township to join. Is that correct?
I'm planning to go.
You are planning to go?
Mhm.
Okay. You have any interest in going?
Planning Commission meeting at 7:30.
What's that?
Planning Commission right after.
Okay. All right. Next is subdivision land and development, 1414 Bertrand Road, Joy and Rosalind Neff subdivision application. This is just an acknowledgement.
Correct. Yes.
Next is 352 Black Horse Road, Randolph Smith subdivision land development application, another acknowledgement.
Yes.
And then new business is to authorize bids for snow and ice removal.
I make a motion to authorize the township manager to advertise the bid in snow and ice removal.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Brian? This is the one we never get bid, right?
I was gonna just make a suggestion this year about
Okay.
something.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
And that may be coordinated with this. We had, I think it was the Veterans Contracting Company did some work for the township last year or so.
For bridge work.
Yes, and I was looking on their website, and they do snow plowing. Are we gonna be contacting them?
Oh, well, add my list, Brian. I will. That'd be fine, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I stumbled across that because I think we had really
Okay.
good results with them on the work they did. You know, they were a real upfront, outfit, so it would seem to be, let's hit and see if we can get at least one bid this year.
Yeah, they might be interested in doing, a couple parking lots, but they're interested in, township roads.
Okay, so what was
Okay.
your suggestion?
Well, for the last 3 years, we have bid this out, sent out direct mailings to many companies. The company we have been using, Oz Property Management, even going through the process, have an issue with some of the bond requirements. We looked at the regulations for second-class municipalities and townships, and we can put together enforcement provisions and remove bond requirements to try and cast a wider net, make it a little easier, if that is the desire to move forward. The bid bond is really, to have that financial security, and the performance bond is there in the event that, they don't show up and we have something to hold it to. But in all practicality, if they don't show up, look, we still have to figure things out, so.
Well, the way we've been operating the last 3 years, if they don't show up, what happens? They just
They've
don't show
always
up.
showed up,
Right.
so,
they just-
yeah. So with past history, they've been a reliable contractor to use, yeah.
But we can always reach out to Brian Gave and see.
Mhm. The issue is, we put it out for bid, have to reject everything, bid it again, reject everything, go through 2 cycles in order to contract directly.
Okay, so your suggestion is to take out the bond
Yes,
and then bid.
yes.
Take out the performance bond?
Both bond
Both
requirements.
bonds. And what's your feeling on that?
So the alternative that I discussed with Erica was putting provisions in there where if they don't show up, generally the way it works now is they show up, they invoice us, we pay it in 30 days. The alternative is if they don't show up and we have to contract with somebody else in an emergency type fashion, then they have to reimburse us for that. If they don't reimburse us within 30 days, then we withhold any future payments to them and then pursue any other rights that we may have under the contract. So instead of calling the bond, you pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing seems a little odd, but, so we're asking them to guarantee service to us. Are we paying a premium? Are we paying a premium on these rates? Is that our rate?
Well, we,
It goes into
through
the
the-
bid.
yeah,
No, but is it a premium compared to anybody else that does paving?
I think it's pretty in line with other
Well, it's just a
rates.
regular amount.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not inflated for that performance, because they're actually allocating for us. And we may not use it. We're not guaranteeing the amount of work. We're not paying them a guarantee.
No.
I think that's odd.
yeah.
I personally wouldn't bid with that.
Oh, it's tough.
That's why I-
It is,
Yeah, it doesn't make
yeah.
any sense.
To that, if
I,
you could-
I
yeah.
think, I almost think that you should say, well, again, I don't like spending people's money, so, but I would say, here's $5,000 to commit to that amount, and then take their, whatever a good rate is, but guarantee them something to make that commitment, that contract commitment, and then they might be willing to do a performance bond and other bond. Yes.
If I can make a suggestion.
Well, no.
I'll speak to that because I know something about snow removal contract. And it never really needed the bond, and that is the sticking point, because essentially you're asking somebody to prepare all their equipment for zero, with zero guarantee. Plus, please put $5,000 of your money over here, we're keeping the bank for 6 months of the year. And it's stinky. And what you suggested is, if they don't show up, they pay you. You're gonna pay for the service.
Right.
What might happen is if you have to contract suddenly, you're gonna pay more than the
Right.
bid. And I would say that it is fair to say, look, write it in there that if we have to get someone else, you have to pay over, anything over your bid. So if you bid at $200 and we have to pay $300, you need to pay the $100 over if you don't show up. So it does put something in there where they're gonna say, well, we've got to show up. And then I think I just heard the suggestion from Mike that we would give them $5,000 to start off. The state, if you wanna model that at all, gives something for getting ready. And we get 2/3 of it in the beginning and 1/3 at the end. So you perform to get it back. But it's for calibration essentially. So we have to prepare all of our equipment, get it ready. It has to be ready to go October 1st. it doesn't matter what happens, it has to be ready to go, and it has to be ready until the end of April. And, you know, and we hop to it, you know, like, we don't get a big warning that it's gonna happen. So we get a nice sum, decent sum, it gives us something to get our equipment ready, make sure everything's working right, and, because we put a lot of time into that. And any snow contractor is gonna do that. So if you could offer something, an incentive to say, look, we're gonna give you the contract, we're also gonna give you X number of dollars, you know, like, let them bid what they feel they need to get it started. I think you'll get more bids, I really do. The township contracts have been all the same across the board, and they're not very friendly to the contractor. They're just not. And let's face it, there's only so much snow equipment out there because of the area we live in. We don't have the big trucks. It's just how it is, and it's expensive. And so we're putting out, say, $25,000 to get one truck ready, and then we have no guarantee that we'll get 1 penny back. So there's an idea. So I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, if they're charging a premium, that would also cover that. The reason to sign a contract allocating X number of hours
Yeah.
to somebody, then, you know, I'm getting an extra $50 an hour. That makes sense.
It might, if it's a big enough premium, but again, snow's really expensive. And it might sound like, you know, they're charging an awful lot of money for one snowplow truck, but you're paying overtime, you're paying extra people to come in and get the trucks ready right before a snowstorm. They might be at the end of their day, you're already paying overtime. Now you're paying guys, you know, they can be out there for, I mean, the longest stretch we ever had was 56 hours. That was a whole lot of money out there on the road, you know, and then it's wear and tear on the trucks, they rust through because you're out in the salt with them 100% of the time. It's, you know, it sounds like when they're bidding $200, $230, whatever it comes out to, it sounds like a lot, but it really is very, very expensive to do snow. Give them something, and I think you'll get it. Because you could beat the rest of the townships in this. I'm just saying. Put something nice out there.
They guarantee it won't snow.
Yeah, that's one way.
And there's no guarantee it snows.
I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah, the whole idea is probably.
Yeah. No, it's a lot on the contractors, it is,
It is.
you know.
That was talked about years ago, it just never went anywhere.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor.
For, what are we doing?
Advertising.
Advertising.
Bid for snow.
Okay, well, I mean, we're gonna advertise this. Is there any interest in putting some guaranteed funds for guaranteed performance? I mean, what do we, or are we just, I mean, chances are we'll get,
Well, are we gonna get bids if we pull the bond out of it, or not? I guess.
I believe we will.
You might.
That was the problem.
I believe we
Get
would.
bids, but they wouldn't comply with the requirements.
okay, let's
Yeah.
start there then.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pull that out. to
Okay,
start.
see what happens.
Unless you wanted to have the bond.
No, if you're gonna pull them out, I would at least recommend the language in there that they have to reimburse us, and I'm okay with the overage language.
Okay.
If that's the
Yeah,
course direction.
Yeah,
we could try that.
Okay, let's try that.
Okay.
So, all those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Mike,
Oh, sorry, Ron.
the other thought is if you don't get bids again on the first time round, or you get them and you don't like the numbers, you can still go and reject them and restructure your bid, you know, with some other sweeteners in there, because we've had some ideas tossed out. You know, you could go and say, listen, we're gonna go and give you $200 if we think we're gonna go and need you this time, you know, upfront money to go and set up your trucks, et cetera. You know, I think there's ways to go and sweeten the contract, various ways. Other townships that do get bids, are their contracts structured differently?
I've looked at many, and a lot of townships are in a very similar position and want to know who our contractor is. Yeah, so hopefully they're getting more work, but don't take up our chunk, please. Territory.
It may be that, you know, that, hey, as was just said, you know, they've got to go and do all the work in advance, and they can't figure out how to work it, so.
Well, they're gonna be doing the work in advance anyway if they're plowing roads to begin with. So all the prep work is gonna be done, but to commit yourself to something without a guarantee, because we have our own road crew. I mean,
Yes.
our own plowman.
Yes.
So then, they may never get to work.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's
So
the other
it's like a
half, that's the
retainer.
other half.
It's like a
It is
retainer. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the thing is, do you want to go and structure something like a retainer contract where you put up so much up front and then so much over the hours?
That's the only fair way, I think.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out ideas for we're at least to a point now of thinking of what can we go and do that we haven't been doing in the different past. It's different. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we've been making out okay with,
We have.
Yes, yes.
so, and we haven't had to
Thankfully.
go that extra step.
Right.
Okay. Next, PennDOT Bridge Replacement Project update. All right, Bertrand Bridge and Howell and Bertrand.
Okay, thank you. Some may be aware, PennDOT is looking to replace the Birch Run Bridge, at Hollow and Birch Run Roads. This bridge has been determined as structurally deficient for PennDOT. We met, they're in preliminary design, so there's still time, and they wanted to reach out for public comment. And I met with them as well as our roadmaster. Just a quick overview. The Birch Run Bridge was built in 1923. It's a two-span reinforced concrete slab bridge. The existing length is 38 feet. The existing width is just under 20 feet. The required width, in looking at the traffic data that PennDOT is looking at right now, is 28 feet wide. The roadway classifications of rural minor collector. The average daily traffic volume is 777 vehicles, and the current speed limit is 35 miles an hour. The truck percentage is 11%, which is slightly higher than they had anticipated. That's the reason why they're the warrants for the width that they have proposed. And they're looking for feedback from the township on the right now proposed width. And also just on, they do understand the location. It's a Birch Runville historic area. We have a zoning overlay as far as the historic nature of that village, and express that we're sensitive to that in terms of aesthetics, in terms of the size itself, even though they have these requirements here that they're putting forward. In addition, there is an original plaque for identifying the Birch Run Bridge that they want to keep and certainly emphasize the need for that. Also, as some may be aware, I have a few photos, but the intersection for Hollow Road and Birch Run, there's a Y. They had proposed if the township would be interested in looking at that intersection and creating a T intersection there, but there's an island there with, and I understand it has some historical and cultural significance. It's also partially owned by a property owner across the way on Hollow Road. We, in talking with our chief of police and with talking with our roadmaster and other staff, don't have a reported number of really any incidents, accidents, that kind of thing at the intersection. So we would suggest, in terms of improving the bridge and the structural integrity, that's one thing. But I think the way the intersection is operating today and the island itself, to not limit disturbance may be the best way to go. But we wanted to bring that forward for review for the board's attention and the community's attention. So.
Now, on the bridge itself,
Yes.
they want to add like 9 feet in the width.
Right.
So what is wrong with the bridge?
The structural deficiency is, I show, here's a picture of the mortar is loosening, there's several cracks.
It's getting worse?
Yes, it is. They have it on an inspection schedule, I think every 6 months now. And they're out to look at it. It is on the transportation improvement plan, and it's coming up on, so the funds that are being used in this project are federal. And so they're looking at it right now and saying it's programmed, they're in design, and 2023 is when they're anticipating construction. So.
Okay, and I guess we'd have to go from a 28 foot to a 28 foot?
That's what is required right now for PennDOT to get their funding, because they have the traffic data and it is what it is, so it can't be funded without, doing a project to that scale. And I know it's a lot, you know, a wider road there may be, you know, just look different.
Aesthetically, and
Yeah,
it's not
village setting.
necessary for that area, right?
Yeah, and we could provide comments and go back and see where that would go. We could certainly try that if that would be the desire of getting that question answered.
Because the other question is gonna be closures.
Right.
Right.
How long? 6 months to a year.
Oh, boy.
Mhm.
Better fix Jenny Lane.
So if there's any comments you'd like me to take back, I can certainly,
Well, I'd like
can.
to see if there's any way of not making it
Reducing
as
that.
wide, because
Okay.
if they did, I mean, because I know people aren't gonna want it.
Okay.
My guess is.
Okay.
Can we come in to see pictures of what they're
Sure.
proposing here?
There we go.
No,
Oh, there's
no
no
pictures
pictures
of
of what's
what
being
they're
proposed, I'm sorry. This is just all,
What it is.
yeah, what's present conditions. They are not ready yet. They don't, the preliminary design is just simply, here, I have a plan right here. And it's very basic. There we go. This is the proposed bridge here.
Okay, are they gonna raise it up at all?
No, they did not mention that. But there is preliminary design, so whatever I say could be subject to change.
Okay. Okay, I just think, I'd like to see it. I think every once in a while, some community input might be helpful. You know, I think the corner on this bridge is strange, and what they did on Cedar Mill Road is, to me, is really unacceptable. It's almost dangerous for passengers and bicycle people. So you never know what they're gonna do. It's interesting.
Yeah,
But we're ways off to find that
we
out.
are, yeah.
But if they were asking for public comment now,
Yeah.
they may shut off public comment next week.
Is there a historic impact study involved?
There will be, and they are aware of that, and they're also aware of the cultural resources study that they're required to do, because it's federally funded, and their environmental review, so that encompasses everything.
So the EAC and the Planning Commission and the HRC will all see this?
Yeah.
John mentioned the Cedar Mill Bridge, and I was thinking about that because they did not create two-lane traffic width when they did
No.
that just recently. So I'm not sure why it would need to happen on this bridge. So,
Yeah.
and widening, you said something about widening the roadway. What was that? How,
They were interested in potentially looking at the intersection.
yeah, not the T part, right
No.
after you ran through the 38-foot, just under 28-foot for PennDOT, there was making the road bed wider.
Oh, no,
The
nothing
bridge
on the
is
road,
gonna
yet,
make 10
no.
feet wide.
Well, the road's not
Yeah.
28 feet wide.
Well, I know, but that's
I
their
know.
specs are
You-
28 feet for the bridge.
Okay.
So we'll go like this and back down.
Or the bridge you can pass.
That's
You
right.
get it, I know, I get it.
I remember when they replaced the bridge on Chester Springs Road there at 401, going in the north direction. And when they did that, it changed it from, I'm gonna say it's an old type concrete bridge, like we've got right now. And they went to one with, very much wider, it may have been like 36 foot wide. And where that is, I could potentially see why due to tractor trailers.
Yeah.
But if they went to the steel guardrail side, and it looked a lot different, and in this case, if they maintain it with, I'm gonna say the concrete style, so it looks like the old bridge, it's just wider and sturdier.
Yeah.
I think, it would go better. And the other thing is, 6 months to a year. In other words, we're working at PennDOT speed.
I was reporting back.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, Maria.
Our property up north just experienced something very similar to this, and I just want to bring this to your attention. They replaced a very old bridge in front of my nursery, and they widened it. They did what they needed to do surface-wise, but they actually underneath lowered the bridge. So my property, which never flooded before, now floods on a regular basis, and they now do water rescues on top of that bridge. This is Route 100. So I would just ask, and I would have thought that our township up there, their engineer was on top of PennDOT, but I don't know whether does the township review the PennDOT things, because what they did was, the flood zones have changed, and they did it to the old flood zones, and it's something like 25 inches lower than where it should be for flood. So now all the water comes, and it has created a total disaster. The flooding that occurs, the water that we now hold on our property, and we're on a high value stream as well, and it's bad. It's really bad. So I would just suggest that the township really pay a lot of attention to not the top, but where this part is, because our bridge used to be an arched bridge, and they went straight across. They went wider, but it doesn't handle the volume of water.
There's also a hydrological study on that.
Yeah, well, their hydrological study, there, just to give you a hint, so when they brought in their big boom, their big lull to come and do it, it sunk.
Oh, wow.
It literally sunk down, the guy was stuck in, and they had to bring another crane in to lift the crane to move it, so it was a huge disaster.
Okay.
So, learn from experience, it was a mess for us.
Unfortunately. Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? Art?
Is that for the bridges that these people are putting up, would you ask them why they have to use brine, which is a combination of magnesium chloride and other substances on the road? What they're doing is they're putting all new bridges up, steel reinforced,
Oh, right.
and just going down through with the salt and reading them out. Now, are we running a public works deal here where we want to continually do this every so often?
We actually talked about that.
This is ridiculous. I don't know whether the governor's asleep up there. Well, I won't answer that. But something's got to be done. These people don't plow snow anymore. They spread brine ahead of it, put salt down with it, and everything suffers.
It is government.
And
Working
well,
with
you're
people's
right.
money, so they don't have to care as much as you would think.
And that's the reason they got $6.5 billion to fix the bridges, which they're now putting the brine on so they can fix them again.
No consequence. Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, let's move on to number 11, ASA application, 1682 Hilltop Road, acknowledging receipt. Okay. What is this for, 1682?
Is that the ASA application itself? Yes. Okay, that is for Julie Foster. It's a 10-acre property, and yeah, they're the ones that submitted the application. So we'll do the public posting following the acknowledgement, just as we did for this previous application.
All right, that ends that, and now we're moving on to public comment and non-agenda items. Any comments? No. Sure.
Thank you. I came to ask you 2 questions tonight. So I was digging through and I just couldn't find any more information on, I understand that we don't, well, I guess I'm asking, do we have a police contract? I didn't see where it was finished up.
We don't have a new contract.
We don't have a,
Still under the old one.
So we don't have a new contract. So we just extended the old one?
Right, we're running under the old one.
Yeah, it's retro, or it's right now, whatever's in place from that previous contract carries forward until.
Why don't we have a new contract yet?
Because we're still negotiating over insurance premiums.
What's the sticking point?
3%, we're asking the police to pay 3% of their insurance premium.
And they don't want to pay the 3%, or they don't?
No, they don't want to.
Okay, I don't blame them.
No.
But have we closed all the loopholes in that contract? You know, like, I don't know why that can't just, like, finish up. We go into arbitration, or,
We
which
could
is
be,
not great for the township.
no, it's not.
So I was just kind of hoping you could close that up. I just think that the police deserve to have that contract.
I agree.
I feel like when we have an elementary school in the district, I think it's really important that we show support for the police, and if they don't really want to pay the 3%, I'm okay with that. But, you know, that's just me. But I'm okay with it because I do want to back the police. I just think that's an extremely important part of this township is the police department. Given just, you know, watch the news, the things that they go through. And I know it seems like this is West Vincent Township and, oh gee, nothing happens here, but things do happen. And you don't know when it's gonna happen. And we have an elementary school here that, you know, if there is anything that happens there, I want the police there immediately, you know, and we can't wait for the state police. So I'm concerned that, you know, we need to get, and I'm gonna ask the board to please get this contract finished up. And I know that you're doing the negotiating, but just give them the 3% of health insurance. Like most departments don't pay anything towards it. Some do, some don't.
A lot
Just-
do. And that, all of our citizens also do. The
Okay.
ones paying the bill
And we're not asking
are,
any citizen to run into any place with a gun drawn. We're not asking any citizen to run toward firepower. Okay, we're just not. The police are asked to do things that none of us are asked to do. I have great respect for them, a great respect for any person who will do that, and I feel like
same
just
as
give them,
firefighters.
give them well, the police are the ones with the guns, okay? They're the targets, they're a
But
target.
running
as soon
into
as they
danger
put-
is another job too.
Yeah.
Police and fire. And fire don't run into guns.
And that's another issue, because we don't have a paid staff. We
That's correct.
have a paid police department.
And we do, and
Go
we're
ahead.
negotiating.
I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels about it. I feel like just please finish on the contract, get the contract signed, give them the 3% if that's what they need. Because we do ask our police to do things that we don't ask anyone else to do, and no one else wants to do it. We get to run away, they don't, okay? And we have an elementary school. Now, let's face it, you can't see these things coming, okay? I don't want them prepared to do that. I don't want them feeling like they don't have the full support of the township.
They do, and they're still doing it.
They're doing it, but, so then I have one other question, and I don't know where this fits, because this is just one of those things that people are talking about. But we have an actual supervisor that is calling for transparency. What don't we know? What has not been transparent? What don't we know?
I have no idea.
That's what I'm hearing on the street, and, I'm hearing this.
Better check the street, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm talking about people talking about, you know, a supervisor calling for transparency. We need transparency. It worries me.
Oh, you think that's a good thing?
I think, well, it is, transparency is wonderful, and it's something that is we should always have had. What I'm asking
agree.
is, if you're calling for transparency, you must see a problem. What's the problem? What don't we know? I want to know what we don't know. I mean, transparency is always good. I just assume that's part of your job, and I assumed it's there. It's part of the job. So what don't we know?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, so we have
It's
transparency.
first reactor, well, that's all I know to do.
I think that's what we're trying to get here.
We're trying to get it, or we have it?
That's what we're trying to do.
But that's what I'm saying, if we're trying to get it, what don't we know?
Okay, you twisting words, kid.
No, I don't think I am, I'm asking a question.
I don't know anything we don't know.
Okay, then we probably have transparency, right?
We do now, yeah.
So we don't need to.
We didn't used to.
Did you see the financial reports there?
Yeah, I looked at that.
You looked at them?
I'm asking about
Did you
right
look at
now,
them?
I'm asking about right now, and I'm saying that there's someone, you're calling for transparency. But what don't we?
We're talking politics now.
No, maybe we are, I don't know.
Okay, if it's a campaign issue of transparency, is that what you're asking?
I don't know. I don't know. I never said I was against it. No, I'm for it, because I'm asking, what don't we know? I am asking, what don't we know? If you're calling for transparency, which we should already have. I think I have the floor. I think I have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, who is calling for transparency?
Well, this is what I'm hearing from chatter on, people I'm talking to.
Okay, well, talk to them, I mean, we don't have
They
anything.
don't know it. No, that's why I'm asking the question. No, they're saying, what don't we know? And I'm going, I don't know, I'll just go ask.
I can't help them, I mean, let's say yes.
Yes, they answered.
So,
I think it's a good thing.
We both,
nobody's saying it's not a good thing.
and we also,
I'm
we already
asking.
said there is transparency in this
Okay,
administration.
so then we don't have to call for it.
No.
So we're good. We have transparency.
But we're not calling for it, I don't know who's calling for this.
That's what I'm hearing, that people are calling for.
Okay, well, talk to them, find out, ask them who
That's
this is
supervisor
coming
calling
from.
for transparency.
Well, ask them what supervisor, I'd like to know.
Well, maybe they'll come to the meeting.
Well, that'd be a great
Ask the
thing.
question.
All right, thank you.
It's pleasant.
Excellent. All right, next.
I just wanted to say that I know part of the transparency problem is 5 years ago, 8 years ago, I would come looking for financial information and they made me pay 10 cents a page to get it. And it was incomplete. And I think that, so there are people looking backwards and wanna make sure we never go back that way again. So if there is some talk about that, it may just be that now we actually see. I mean, Erica tells the whole thing. Every quarter we get this great thing. John can look at it and tell us all the nitpicks about it. That never used to happen. And I think
And that's fine.
if there's people talking about it, that it may just be, let's never ever go backwards.
If people are talking about it, I'd like to know what they think is not transparent, because then that's something
That's
we
what
can
I
look at.
asked.
Yeah, we would like to know
That's what I
that.
asked. What don't we know?
Well, do you have to ask the person that's asking, because they're
I was asking
asking.
the person who was, I was asking the person who was calling for transparency.
And
Someone on the board.
one of the words that's thrown around these days is transparency, and I don't think it's really a good word. I think really you want responsiveness, and as Maria said, hey, this board is much more responsive. I get response from the staff a lot better than we had in years gone by. But the question is, when someone is accused of being not being something, asking that person what they're doing wrong, it's an answer. I don't see how you can get an answer from the person being accused by somebody else. It makes no logical sense at all. It's got to go back to whoever's going and saying that they're not transparent or there's not responsiveness. That's the person to go and ask, and
I
find out
asked.
from them.
That's what I was asking.
No, you were asking the people that were being accused of not being transparent,
Sir.
what are they doing wrong?
Yes,
And
sir.
it's a non-logical question.
You were talking about people on the street saying that a supervisor is asking for transparency. Okay, well,
Saying that we need transparency, that we
okay,
need
good, so
transparency.
let's
So-
find that person.
So my question was, what don't we know? If transparency is needed, I was trying to find out from those.
Okay, but if somebody says that, doesn't mean it is. So we need to talk to that person that said that to you, the chatter, whoever that chatter person is, we need that person here.
They don't have a clue what isn't transparent.
But why are they asking that?
She's alive.
Jesus.
If
All
you
right,
have a
enough.
mission statement
No, I
to
just-
strive towards something, does that mean that you're deficient in it?
What?
If you have a mission statement to strive towards something, whether it be fiscal soundness, transparency, does that mean you don't have that stuff? And that you're hiding it, and that you're inefficient? Or does
That was
it
the
mean
question.
that that's what you should every day think about?
And strive for
Figure
it.
out your
That's the
duties.
question. That was the question.
Yeah, that was perfect. Okay, that's, Barry.
Usually what that's termed is a straw man argument. It's an answer you can't give because it's a question that's coming up that you can't answer. So it just makes you look foolish. So if you chase it, you're chasing something that's a waste of time. It's used in campaigns all the time. So I recommend you run away from it. Second thing is, let's be fully transparent, and why don't we explain to Ms. Troyer exactly what happened in the police contract, in the negotiations.
where you want them to pay the extra 3%, but what were you willing to do in order for them to pay that 3% on the insurance?
Okay, before we go further, Rob?
Yeah, I
can
mean,
we
we're
discuss
in the
this?
middle of negotiations.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
There was an offer on the table, and it has been spoken at township meetings before already. It was addressed here before, so it should be able to be, this is.
It's been talked
This is
about.
in
We
it
had
has been
talked
talked
about
about
it before.
You
You
can
talk
clearly,
about the offer though, not the negotiation.
That's right.
right, you can clearly explain
The offer.
how they were actually gonna make more money
Okay.
doing it.
Statement on the website.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
statement on the site.
So
Just so
please
you know.
explain that. Thank you.
Okay, I will. Just so you know, we offered an additional raise to cover that 3%. Okay?
Okay.
Which would have actually put,
Additional raise to cover the 3% of the premium they would have to pay.
And is that 3%, is it capped at 3% in the entire contract?
Yes, actually.
Is it, what they would have to pay is capped in the contract?
Well,
What they would have to pay?
it
is
was at
capped?
that time. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, it's not anymore?
Again, we are in negotiations, anything could change. So we can't discuss any changes. Yes, John?
Is it somebody else's mic?
I can't have my TV broke, so this. So I've written a little speech here, and I'm gonna need your help tonight. As many of you know, I'm involved with the Bucket Corner Horse Show, and I found out this week that if any of our tents are over 400 square feet of space, we will be hit with a $50 permit fee. Well, I plan on setting up over 40 tents, and at least 6, maybe 8 will be in that permit zone. I've been involved with the horse show, setting up, not in charge of it, but setting up since about 1998. And I don't recall ever paying a permit fee for a tent, or for a tent. Anyways, so that brings me to why I'm here. The Bucket Corner Horse Show is a 501c3 charitable organization, nonprofit. Our mission statement is outlined in the bylaws, and it says something really poetic about promoting equine and community events, and also to protect our 32 acres as open space. We hear that a lot, right? So I'm here tonight, here's the kicker. Corey, you want to hold Mike in his chair? As the township has a history of supporting other groups inside and outside the township, inside and outside of our township, or this township, it's not mine anymore. I'm asking for the Board of Supervisors to find a way to waive the permit fees. So,
Rob, can we just,
I don't like it. So I don't like the fees
You have to
either,
look at the
but I don't like the waiving.
Yeah, theoretically.
That's,
So I think make a motion that we waive the fees predicated upon Rob making sure that we're not overstepping the cap.
only if it's transparent though.
Where's the,
I'll second. Any comments? All those in favor? No, John?
Comment, yes, I think you should vote for it.
Nay.
So, just as a follow-up, maybe we should look and see why that fee is assessed and
Well,
if
it's
it actually does cause an additional cost per item or not.
Well, I mean, it's in the code, and we follow the code, so we have to. Now, the fee could change the amount, and I think we still have to charge a fee. Right?
Well, just as it.
Or, oh, wait, okay. Yeah, no, it's not. It's been there for, I don't know, when did we adopt that code, 16?
Oh,
Well, way before
yeah.
that. Okay. It's been there all the time, we haven't been
Yeah, we
doing it.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, somebody just found out that we should have been doing it. Okay,
I
so,
guess my whole point was, if it's per unit, and if it's something that's like an inspection thing or something,
It is.
there's an overhead to do the first one, and there isn't for the second one, you know, if it involves any.
yeah, I mean, well, it's just an inspection, so yes, you do the first one, and you go, we'll check the other second.
Right, so the first one, you would expect to have something, but the follow-on ones, maybe there should be, you know.
A lower fee.
Maybe there's some way to do
Ones,
that.
yes, I think there is, well, we can definitely do that. We have control over our
We
fees.
do.
We don't have control over whether we don't have to do it.
Right,
We have to do it.
right. We can look at that. that structure.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Some time back, we had the document scanning and indexing, sorting project, et cetera. Did that ever finish up?
Yes, well, we did one phase of the project. The tackling right now is sorting through exactly what we can get rid of by township code. And we're just keeping a few plans here and there, but the first phase is done. So we're just trying to get together what we'll need as far as a resolution for destruction of records for the documents we have scanned. We do have a second phase and a third phase to do all the files. The figures I have for the estimate on the second phase are a little higher than I thought, actually. So I am looking at the budget to see if it's still doable this year. But the first phase is done, and it did go well. We're using the system. It's going fine, all the plans and documents. So we'll continue with that, but we'll have to get a resolution together for all the sorting through the documents and the boxes of things that we have.
It's great to hear that it went well, the
Yes.
contractor worked well, we didn't have any pissing contests, good thing, thank you.
Sure.
Let's see. Question, each of you board of supervisors, we've got the PRPC comp plan coming forward in September. Have each one of you guys read it?
I've seen a good amount of it.
Okay. I suggest you read it and see whether the numbers and recommendations make sense. And the other thing is where the source of the statements are. Because one of the things I notice is going through there are some statements about this, that, and the other thing is, but there's no source for those. So basically, if you need to follow up on that, now you're hiring that same consultant to understand what they were doing or where they found it from. Basically, it could be structured, I hate to say this, kind of a make-work project, if not for them, for other consultants. And that bothers me a bit. Bleeding kits. Erica went and supplied me the information on those, and I thank you very much for that. Very responsive. And one of the things is there were 3 kits that are wall mounted. And there's 3 kits that I'm going to say you put in a room somewhere. All the kits had the same supplies in them. They had a tourniquet set up, I'm going to say a blood staunching agent. And the question I've got is we're putting these things in the elementary school and here, correct?
Correct.
Okay, 2 locations, 3 items each. How does this go and play out? It looks like we should be putting them in a 3rd location.
There may be 2 at the school. I will have to look at it, but the grant application, I think, is just now getting submitted. So we don't have the funds yet. We can still work through it.
Okay.
Yeah, but if my memory recalls correctly, I think there were 2, but I could be wrong, at the school.
One of the things is that I've done some reading on how the technology works sometime past. I've been reading up some more on it. There's some different stuffs out there. I think it's a real good thing. And having, I'm going to say, even extra of the bleeding kits particularly around is a good thing, because, you know, for knife wounds or anything like that, you staunch it that way. And reading through the stuff, the tourniquet part of it, you really do need some training on it. Apparently you can go only apply it for so long. You've got a little tiny tag and you mark on it when you started, when you stop, so you go and admit the blood back, or at least you know what it is. But on the staunching kits, the clotting kits, those are, you just put them on and you hold pressure. It's I'm going to say a lot less thinking involved in it. And then take care of us, because the other one was transparency, that already came up. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, Sarah, I take this up here first.
Oh, good. Okay, I'll be quick, because I'm just doing this because Harriet's not here. Y'all guys looking that way have been missing a really nice sunset. And it might take him too long to talk to Brian, because there was I was going to recommend you guys look to your right. Thank you. With love from Harriet.
It is spectacular from the center. I am here to, at the risk of boring some of the folks at the table who have heard this story, I'm here to tell a little story. And before I do, I came from Charlestown Township, where they rely on the state police, who are in, as my Jewish friends say, Yenabel, the other end of the world. So we don't want to rely on state police. It's the police force here is wonderful. My name is Jim, last name's Hanna, H-A-N-N-A. I moved here 3.5 years ago from Charlestown, and don't intend to leave. We're enjoying it so much here. But prior to, I live at 1152 Hollow Road, which is in between Horseshoe Trail and Birch Run Road. And my property slopes steeply uphill. A couple days before we settled on our home, I came over to check on some work that was being done, and it was raining. It was first week of March of 2016. It was raining pretty heavily, and there was a lot of water coming down the hill and filling the backyard. And there were some fellows there working outside, and I just came up and I was talking to them, and I said, oh, you know, we're going to be moving in a few days. And he said, "You're buying this house?" I said, "Yeah." And they all kind of said, "A lot of water here." I said, "Well, it's raining pretty hard," and I didn't think anything of it. So we get the house, and since that time, we have a swale in the center, kind of natural little brook in the center of the property that comes from the top down, and it runs through some stone pools and things, and goes under the house out to Hollow Road. It's been there it was built a long time ago. It's been there for years. Half a dozen, 8 times since March of 16 when we moved there, we've had catastrophic stormwater flood. I have some on video. We're not built for that tonight. But the second or third time that it happened, I decided that this can't be normal based on the lay of the land. Something's happening here. There's someone up on the hill there is building a swimming pool or moving soil or a house is being built. I drove up Flowing Springs and Schoolhouse up to St. Matthews Road, and I literally started knocking on doors and trespassing on people's property. It was broad daylight. It was raining still, to see if I could find what was happening. Everything looked pretty normal. Larger houses, larger lots, nothing had been disturbed recently. So I went home. Couple more times this happens, and one day I was really frustrated because the water was coming into our kitchen and our laundry room, and my wife was beside herself, and it was overwhelming. And I put on my rubbers and I hiked up into the thick woods above my house. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, something's going on up here. I just haven't found it yet. And sure enough, I got up into the woods and I saw a large slice out of the woods that had come over the top of the ridge and down. It's an extension of Widener Way, which comes in off of St. Matthews Road. The extension was stone. It's a private road, and it came over the ridge and it came down maybe 80 yards or so, roughly. And then it ended, and then there was stone the rest of the way down, maybe 120, 150 yards. And the stone had been washed away, and while it was raining heavily, big beefy guy like me had a hard time standing up. It was coming down the hill through this spillway so hard. So sure enough, I figured that I found out a large part of what was causing all this water in our backyard. But I didn't really do anything about it. I didn't know what to do about it, but I had some satisfaction that I at least discovered it. Fast forward to a couple months ago, I was bopping around on the internet looking at a piece of property on Zillow, good old Zillow, for a friend of mine who was looking at a piece of property in Spring City. I had filtered out homes, and I was only looking at lots and land and such. And I'm knocking around there and looking at a couple things over there, and I noticed Widener Way, lot for sale on Widener Way. That rings a bell. Oh, that's that little street up above my house. So I go on, I click on that, and I see that there is a 1 change acre lot for sale on Wider Way. And then I start digging a little further, and I find that there is a 6-lot subdivision on a 10 change acre parcel directly above me, abuts my property, heavily wooded and prohibitive and precautionary slope, to use the terms of the, anyway. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is interesting, they're only 1 and change, and I called a friend of mine and he suggested that I file a right to know with the township. And since then, Kathleen, Erica, and Jason, and Rob have been very, very helpful. I've read through every minute of every meeting since the beginning of 2016, Planning Commission, Board of Supervisors. I've sat in the conference room over there and gone through every piece of paper. Went back to 1958, having to do with this piece of property. The bottom line is, for a number of years, there was a lot of activity, variously called Glad Acres Subdivision, Hillside Sanctuary, Helen Hubach Trust, Investment Solutions, Inc., all owned by a woman named Michelle Thomas. And she apparently came in several different times and applied to build this and build that. It was 2 parcels. She came in to get a conditional use to move a lot line. A lot of activity, which ceased in 2010, according to all of the records that the township has. There were no, other than a couple of complaints from, I was not here yet, some complaints on record about soil disturbance and some erosion and stuff. There was no activity after 2010, except for, and all of those subdivisions and all those building projects have been denied for various reasons. Skip from 2010 to 2018, there was a memo from the Rob's predecessor, the township solicitor, recognizing the subdivision of 6 1-acre lots. So, didn't really know what to do about that. And I started digging a little bit more, and Eric invited me to meet with Rob and Brian Kukowski, who's not here tonight, on Friday morning. We spent a couple hours talking this whole thing through. The bottom line was, Brian, in the course of our meeting, found online in 2014, these 6-lot subdivisions had been registered with the county. And Rob, please correct me if anything I say is not to your recollection. Gee, look here, that these lots were registered with the county. That was in 2014. And then in 2016, Ms. Thomas came in and met with Rob's predecessor and Erica and Brian and tried to, again, get a 6-acre subdivision because she wanted to apparently build a house on one of those lots. And they told her, no, this has been turned down by, several different times by several different bodies of the township. She came back later in 2016 with her attorney. And apparently her attorney and our solicitor got together for a few hours, and he took that case back to the law firm and produced this memo in 2018 that, yes, indeed, the township was going to recognize this subdivision of 6 lots. So I found it peculiar. I thought it was good to bring out that was, there was a large gap there of any kind of documentation with the township. There were no minutes or notes taken at the staff meetings because that was not the practice at that time. I will say that when we were meeting, Kathy took notes of Barbara, so that's been memorialized. My biggest problem is the driveway, the extension of the road, which Brian established was probably from his aerial information that he had, lots of different years. He ascertained that cut and then the stone, which had washed out from all the flow of water down the hill, was laid sometime around 2010. That was his best guesstimate as the engineer when it was laid. We then discussed, was there a permit required at that time for grading and putting in a driveway? and we didn't have that information at our fingertips. That's critical information because the lot now that's being marketed is only accessible by this private road extension. I refer to it as a driveway, but it's really not, it's a private road, private street extension. As I read Salvo in my research, Brian had an opinion about that. I said, you know, if there wasn't a permit for this driveway, if it was required and there wasn't a permit, we had a problem. If there wasn't a permit required, you know, they can do whatever they want. Last year, I walked back up there again for the third or fourth time, and it had now been, within the last year, it had been asphalted. Nice, big, thick, fresh, black asphalt. It has it's a ski slope. When you stand at the top of it, it looks like a ski slope. So we have a couple of problems. How did years of denials and turndowns of subdivision get reversed by the solicitor without any record of it, at least that I was able to access in the township information? Also, again, in all the minutes since the beginning of 2016, no mention of it in any of the minutes of the planning commission or the supervisors. So we have that problem. Contra all this information, it was approved by the solicitor. The other problem we have is that the way Brian made a representation that's not correct, actually. If he was here, I'm sure he vigorously debated with me. And I'd like to read it, if that's okay. Stormwater Management Ordinance, Article 1, Section 106, C7. Maintenance of existing paved surfaces, replacement of existing paved surfaces shall meet the erosion and sediment control requirements of 25 PA Code, Chapter 102, and Section 303 of this ordinance, and is exempt from all other requirements of this ordinance listed in subsection 106 above. Resurfacing of existing paved surfaces is exempt from the requirements of this ordinance listed above. So Brian's contention was the asphalt that went down in the past year was a maintenance item. However, the last line of this section, construction of new or additional impervious surfaces shall comply with all requirements of this ordinance, as indicated in Table 106. Table 106 gives the dimensions required, and this exceeds the dimensions, the minimum dimensions. So, simply by reading this, my contention is that that driveway, as of last year, was put in contra to, it's that driveway is subject to all 140 pages of the stormwater management ordinance because it was additional and it was over top of loose stone, which is not pervious. So my big problem is every time it rains, my historical resource home is ready to wash down the road literally. Again, I will show you video. Your eyes will pop out of your head. I spoke to both of the previous owners of the property. The most recent owner today, who lives in California, who told me without me, I just said, hey, tell me about the water here. You know, what was your experience? Because we never met these people because they were not there for a year and a half. He said, well, you know, we lived there from the summer of 07 until they left in October of 14. And he said, I noticed the last couple of years we were there was a lot of water coming down the hill, but we didn't really think much of it. Before that, the little swale and the little pond and the little thing handled it. He said, but the last few years we were there, which would have been 11, 12, 13, 14, post Brian's estimate of when that was cut through the woods, we got a lot more water there, and then we moved away. I spoke to Ryan Todd, who still lives in the township, a couple of times, and I said, Ryan, what was your experience with water in the backyard? Now, he lived there until 07, when these folks lived there, 07 to 14. Ryan Todd said, the little swale, once in a while, if we had a really heavy rain, the swale would fill up, the little koi pond would fill up, it would go under the road, and that was it. In the middle of the summer, it was dry. I also, Ryan also mentioned, because we were talking about this driveway up the hill. And I said, well, right now, he said, well, where do you stand? What are you trying to do? I said, well, my immediate problem is I need to address this driveway. I said, right now the township is researching whether or not there was an ordinance in 2010 requiring a permit for grading and laying a driveway. And Ryan Todd said, which I just found out this afternoon, and I mentioned this to Eric, oh, there was definitely a permit required in 2010, because in 2006, I had a track up the side of my property where we were considering putting a lot in a house, and I got cited and fined for dirt track and removing stones from the dirt track. So I know in 2006 now that there was definitely a grading and driveway permit required. So Brian, we have that answer for Brian, and we also have in black and white, and at least, one could argue that laying fresh asphalt over loose stone fits the definition of being subject to the stormwater management. So that's my story. If anybody has any questions, please.
So what are you asking of the board?
I'm asking the board to rule about the driveway, which is a spillway on my property. When I was doing research, if you draw a straight line from the bottom of that driveway to my backyard, and you lay it over the topographical map that's in the other room, it is a direct shot down it's like a ski slope. And at the end of the driveway, it just funnels down into my backyard. So because it was never, I shouldn't say that. The township doesn't have any record of any application or permit granted for that driveway in 2010 or thereabouts. Because it was never designed, engineered, inspected, it's defective. I mean, it's catastrophic to my property. And all evidence is that it was to the immediate predecessor, starting off in or around 2010. Because it was done without, as far as we know, there's no evidence that there was ever a permit. It was not engineered. And it is subject to now, since it was paved, is subject to every page of the stormwater management ordinance. The other thing I would like the board to do is look at how we went from a 10-acre parcel of ground to a 6-acre subdivision on township solicitors without apparently anyone in the township knowing about it. I mean, I've spoken to neighbors who are as close to it as I am, and they knew nothing about it. So that's where I am.
George?
Yeah, I've been on the planning, I'm George Martin, and I've been on the planning commission.
Can you go up to the speaker, to the microphone, please?
I've been on the planning commission for more than a decade, and I do remember Michelle Thomas coming before the planning commission multiple times with the proposal for 6 units on this 10 acres. And I remember, and it would be in the minutes, I don't remember the exact months or years, but it was multiple times, and there were multiple environmental and zoning reasons why we strongly recommended that the supervisors not approve the road thing, because I remember the road was one of the issues, the extension onto Widener Lane or Road or whatever it is. And there were multiple problems that we said, do not approve this. My recollection again is that the supervisors every time denied this 6-unit subdivision. So I don't understand, and they've never come back again to say, well, this is a new plan, we want to now get it approved. So I don't understand how it went from a not approved subdivision to something that they're selling. And I didn't know this was.
Yeah, so the subdivision plan that you're referring to is actually from like 1953. 58, predates our zoning and our saldo.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the time, the county was the only one that was reviewing it, not us. Okay, so then what happened was she came back in 2006, 2008, something like that, and there's an interpretation of the ordinance that in my opinion is wrong, and it wasn't me that reviewed it this time, it was somebody in my office, where we don't have a general merger provision in our ordinance. Our ordinance says that if you have a non-conforming lot, so one that was created prior to our zoning or saldo being in place, you're allowed to build on that lot, provided you can meet building setbacks and impervious coverage. It doesn't say that if you have an undersized lot and you happen to own two undersized lots next to each other, that they automatically merge. That's not the case. So that subdivision from 1958 is still in effect. Those 6 lots were created back then, and she still has the right to build on those lots today.
Again,
Well, may I fill in a little bit of color here? The 6 lots are a 1958 map of the township. No more, no less. We all agree on that. Now,
I believe there's a subdivision plan from 1958.
I remember the hearings, and they
If you're
said
referring to
here,
the 2006 conditional use hearing, which was something different, a different proposal for that property.
they came in with something from 1958 that had never been approved by anybody.
well,
Does it have to be approved by anybody in 1958?
no.
Township will make review.
The township,
It would be a county thing.
didn't have.
That's right.
That is absolutely up for conversation. It's up for conversation. I certainly have my opinions, which align with all the other denials that were, it's a ridiculous place to even consider subdividing, but that's strictly my opinion. The biggest, the immediate problem is the stormwater problem. There may never be, one of them may never get sold. One can subdivide and never build on it, obviously. That's all well and good. That's a hypothetical down the road. Got to find a builder, all that kind of thing. Got to put a stormwater management system up there that won't wash my house away. But my immediate problem, which is, it's all interrelated, obviously, my immediate problem is the conduit that's dumping a river of water on my property every time it rains. And it's not just because we've had a couple of rainy summers. It was happening from as early as 2010, according to the private owner, on or about when the thing was cut. And then certainly paving it certainly didn't help the situation, putting asphalt down on it.
Michelle Thomas, so you're Jim.
I am.
There's a lot of history, and unfortunately, you're probably gonna need about another 10 years to get
Okay.
to the bottom of everything.
I've spent the last week over next door going through stacks and stacks of all these hearings and all this stuff.
You got a
I
long
hear
way to
you.
go.
Okay.
You got a long way to go. In a nutshell, that road was built in 1961. It was a macadam road all the way through down to the cul-de-sac, just like you see in the 1958 plan. Read the deeds, you will see that road existed since 1961. People have bought and sold property out of that Glad Acres subdivision in reliance on that road existing. The road has been in various states of repair and maintenance over the years. We have a lot of history on what we've done to maintain our roadway under One Wagner Way. To maintain our road doesn't require what you're claiming is necessary. It's pre-existing.
That's debatable. I mean, that's
Just read the deeds, 1961, go back in the records.
It's
And I
debatable.
told you you're gonna have a lot more research that you need to do.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, it was a macadam road, okay? It's been a macadam road. I've been in this township for 25 years. It was macadam when I sat out there before I even owned the property. It was macadam as I watched it break apart. It's macadam. And it's now resurfaced because we have the right for ingress and egress to and from all of our homes along Wagner Way. We have the right to have a road in decent repair, and we maintain it. It's our responsibility.
I'm not sure that this is the place for this.
If you want to chat about it elsewhere, that's fine.
I think we should.
Yeah.
because
we're talking about two different things. You're talking about the existing road that serves the homes that are built in there. I'm talking about the extension of it through the woods, where there are no homes, there are no improvements at all.
That's what we need to talk about, because there is no extension. If it goes to the cul-de-sac, that is a pre-existing road. It's been there since 1961. So let's talk offline. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
I
sure.
would have done that to begin with. We probably would have saved a lot of time and aggravation.
All right, great, thanks.
Okay, but I.
This
I'm
board
not-
is not, I don't think it is in any kind of position to rule on anything at this point. I don't think we can.
You're not in a position to rule that driveway was it permitted, was the macadaming of it last
So
year?
the
Is
mechanism
that,
by that would be, we could look at the information you're providing, I could point Brian to the section.
That's what we have, we can't make a decision.
No, 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 I'm saying you can certainly consider, shall I put it in writing, is that what
Yes.
you're asking me to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is just one point related to what George was saying. One of the things that we were asked to deal with on the planning commission was a lot line change that Michelle requested between the two lots she had at the end of Widener Way. And during that whole time, had a conditional use for changing her access to a home at the end of Widener Way instead of going across the neighbor's yard, I think it was. We talked only about 2 parcels. And those 2 parcels were subject to a conditional use hearing that went through due process. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other comments or questions? Somebody's worried about.
I just want to note that the conditional use that Sarah's referred to is actually null, void, and unenforceable. It's been that way for over 10 years. It was in conjunction with a land application by a builder who backed out at the recession. I perfected an easement across land that was intended for access to my cottage per the Glad Acres plan. Again, if you look at that Glad Acres plan, there is significance and things have been built substantially in accordance with that plan. So that conditional use is no longer valid. I just want to follow up with that. Thank you.
Any other comments? You guys.
Motion to adjourn.
A second motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
And John, are you happy that